the Baen Free Radio Hour.
Welcome everyone to another episode. I am your host, Jeremy Como. That is enough about me. Let's get to why we're really here today. And this is a young gentleman next to me, Mr. Jacob Hollow. Welcome, sir. Thanks for giving me your time today. And we'll talk about your latest work when did it publish?
October 1st is when Freelancers came out.
Okay, so I got to read it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a fun, easy read, but it keeps you interested. I get, for me at least, because of that. Because I've read a lot of things lately to where I'm like, what now? Do I have to reread this? I got to get a chart out. Let's do it. This book is fun.
Well, that was by design.
Yeah.
I try to write, what I feel, I would enjoy reading if I was, coming to something blind. The elevator pitch for Freelancers of Neptune is Firefly meets Ringworld. So that's what I told Toni Weisskopf, and she's like, here's a contract, go write that. It's like, thank you. So it's a scrappy crew on a rundown ship having adventures in our solar system, but this is so far in the future that our solar system is a very, very different place. It's been changed by large-scale macro engineering feats. The inhabitants, they don't know how things ended up the way that they are. For example, Saturn has no natural rings anywhere. It has an orbital ring that people live on. Mercury is a gas giant. And no, I do not break the laws of physics when I do that. And Earth is just a unit of measure. No one even knows that the planet actually existed. So it's sort of this grand age of rediscovery as these civilizations sort of start going out into the solar system once more. And a rediscovery, adventure, and quite a bit of danger, because there are some rather dark corners of the solar system that people shouldn't be touching, but they are.
Yeah.
As they do in this book. So,
yeah. Well, and it's kind of it's art imitating life, where we think we know a lot about our past and everything, but what do we really know? So I like that aspect of it. It was pretty cool. So where did the idea because this is you've got some pretty unique characters in here, some pretty unique ideas. Was it just like one day the muse went, here you go, you're welcome, or where did this idea come from?
So the kernel for this idea actually came from a rather strange place. So I was playing a live service sci-fi game called Warframe at the time. And Warframe is basically space ninjas with magical powers going around the solar system, blowing stuff up, killing the bad guys and whatnot. And the portrayal of the solar system in that setting is just a very strange, very alien place. Like you have missions that are set on Earth, and it's like, well, this doesn't really look like Earth, and there's like these weird animals that it's like, where did all this come from? And so that strangeness, that alienness, sort of became the seed. Is like, okay, well, if I were to design some sort of like far future solar system where things were like that, what would I do? And I came up with the concept of the Pentathian, these 5 super AIs that were caretakers for humanity, and it was sort of this age of wish fulfillment. So people would go to the AIs, and it's like, hey, we'd like a habitat that has like 0.3 G gravity, and so that we can fly around, with, pretty easily. And by the way, could you like design some dragons for us? You populate it with dragons. And the AI is like, oh yeah, sure, we can do that. So there's all these weird, places within the solar system, and a lot of the inhabitants have also been modified in some manner, such as the young woman on the cover who has cat ears and a cat tail, and her people. So basically, like when I'm designing corners of this particular version of the solar system, thinking of this like, okay, what would the ask be? Why does this thing exist? So some of the asks are very stupid, but the AIs are like so powerful and so willing to please, like, oh yeah, sure, we could do that. And then you have come to, essentially the quote unquote modern day of the setting, and the AIs have been gone for thousands of years, and people really don't know how things ended up the way that they are. And they don't really understand a lot of the technology that they're using on a daily basis. And while they have some capacity to build their own stuff, most of it comes from factories that are still to a certain degree functional, that can produce anything from pistols to spaceships. And so like that's one of the the resources they go after, is like trying to find these DIA factories that are still functional and have patterns that can produce valuable commodities for them. So the main characters, they're after a treasure trove of what's called pentatech. Mm-hmm. So you have like normal technology in the setting, which is like stuff that is safe for humans to interact with. And then you have what the AIs developed that is not safe for human interaction, but is also very valuable and very powerful, and people want it. Even though there's like risks with, you poke this stuff, you really don't know what's going to happen sometimes. And so they're after this massive treasure trove of pentatech. And there are other interested parties. Mm-hmm. And these interested parties, so our protagonists, they got a ship, and it has a gun. And at the beginning of the novel, this gun has 9 rounds. This is essentially the extent of their long-range combat ability. Okay, they are ending up in situations that they are not equipped to handle, which is part of the fun, I think, of the story, that they're in over their heads almost all the time. And what are they up against? Well, they're essentially up against a fleet of warships, fully decked out, crack commando teams, the works. It's like, what chance do these people have? Well,
So who's how would you describe the big bad? I mean, there's a couple different groups, but like the who's ruling what, and who's their opposing forces. So
you have essentially 3 superpowers within the setting, and they're based around the orbital rings on the gas giants Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter. So the people from Neptune, they're kind of designed to be, relatable. A lot, not all of them, but most of them are baseline humans. Mm-hmm. Culturally, they're fairly familiar to us. They're, where they come from. There's designed to be a lot of familiarity. It's one of the reasons why, I have a scene where they're having hamburgers, and like the comments from the people who edited it is like, there wouldn't be hamburgers. Da, 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 da. It's like, guys, calm down. I'm doing this on purpose. This is to make this group comfortable and relatable to the reader. You know, that's the kind of behind the scenes mechanics that's going on there, because there's a lot of weird stuff in this setting, and I didn't, you know, want the our heroes to be unrelatable to the reader. So that's, you know, there's some design decisions there. Saturn is kind of like this middle step. It's like this weird melting pot of different divergent forms of humanity, such as cat people. Or, you know, some of them have wings, you know, some of them might be different colors. Some of them, you know, you could sort of like squint and say they're space orcs or space elves, you know, any sort of thing like that. And there's also some cyborgs, like one of the protagonists, well, part of the crew, he has some cybernetic implants in his head. And then you have the Jovians, and they're just sort of like this weird, you know, post-humanity, you know, they're fully synthetic bodies. They're, you know, downloading their persona. They have multiple bodies. So, you know, you shoot one of them, they're just going to come back at you later with another body or multiple bodies. And so they're the, you know, the least relatable of the three factions. And they're also sort of the bullies. They're the most powerful technologically. They're the largest in terms of population. They have the most military might, and to a greater or lesser extent, they just kind of, you know, shove the other two factions around, you know, when it pleases them. And so you have one of their agents, Galat Zorman, and he / they, because he does have multiple bodies going at the same time, is in command of a warship, and this warship also has auxiliary corvettes. And his mission is to basically find and secure this treasure trove. And he is very well equipped to do this. And our heroes are not. Which, again, I think is part of where some of the fun comes in, because it's like they are in, you know, they end up in messes just way in over their head, and they have to, you know, kind of through you know, guile and, you know, good luck sometimes, you know, just eke their way out of these situations. And there's some skill in there, you know, they're not like completely helpless.
Yeah, competent goofballs. Yeah.
Yes. One of the ways that I sort of contrast these characters to a lot of the characters that appear in the Gordian Division series that I co-authored with David Weber. In that series, you're dealing with a lot of cases like the elite of the elite. You know, you're dealing with individuals that are like the top of their various fields. They've dealt with multiple existential threats to like all of reality, and they have succeeded. And so these characters like top shelf, you know. The freelancer crew, they're not really elite anythings.
Hence the name. Yeah. I read that other one, and yeah, they're very in the other series, they're very regimented, very military like. They you know, they basically have their shit together, while this crew not so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, you know, there's some friction within the crew. I think most of it is you know, it's not like a huge focus. It's more like done for comedic relief. That you have this interplay between these characters, and some of them will just rub each other the wrong way, and you know, it's hopefully the reader has a laugh with those moments.
Well, and I was gonna say this book was fun. I enjoyed it. The snark is real, and it was a good time. But I also liked some of the social aspects that you put. I feel like, you know, you did that in the other series that you were talking about, where you introduce all these what if social aspects to the book, where like what religions have formed, and or what we deem as deities and things like that, which it's kind of what we've done throughout civilization here on Earth. If you want to talk about some of that.
Yeah. So you have these. One of the things that I do is, and David and I, we've talked about this, is that we sort of approach designing fictional societies from the opposite directions. Mm-hmm. In that he will sort of develop the societal framework, and then the technology he sort of builds around that core. Whereas I'm sort of like, okay, well, this is the tech base. This is the sort of like technological situation that I want. What kind of society would evolve from having access to these things? And the big thing in this setting is the pentathlon. So you've got, super AIs that quite literally almost everyone in the solar system, their life depends on it because they're living not on planets, but on, megastructures. Mm-hmm. And some of these are huge. They have, like I think the one I did calculations for the Jovian one, which doesn't really, appear in the book, but it's like, over 20 times Earth's landmass. That's a lot of space. Mm-hmm. So you have all this stuff that's been created by these AIs, and then you have various branches of humanity that have been modified by these AIs. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, of course some of them would worship them as gods. Mm-hmm. And again, I was like asked, by one of the editors, is like, why are they worshiping these machines as gods? It's like, well, quite literally, they can quote unquote pray to like the remnants of this what the AI is like left behind to some of their machines, and they can get responses from them. It's like, wow, the question then becomes like, well, why wouldn't they worship them? Depending on what level of understanding they have of the underlying technology, which again is to a certain degree sort of mysterious to people in the setting. And it's also you have a lot. There's quite a bit of a mix in terms of the different kinds of civilizations that the characters run into and are in the setting. And so you have some branches of humanity that they're just on one small habitat, maybe like one O'Neill cylinder. Mm-hmm. Or one bishop ring, some of the more classical habitat designs that use like real world physics. And they might not even have, heavier than air flight. Mm-hmm. Versus you have others that, are, they can just jaunt around the solar system all willy-nilly. And, you also have the physiological differences, and, some of them are cybernetic, some of them are synthetic. And it's like, okay, well, how are all these people going to interact? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I had, fun designing, like, for example, the Vestini, who is the ex-space pirate cat girl on the cover. She comes from a low-tech society that is confined to just one habitat. And so she sort of, through circumstances, got off of that habitat and has been having crazy adventures until she runs into the main cast, and then has more crazy adventures with them. Yeah. Sort of drags them along whether they like it or not. And so, got to design some, some cat people, and then it just goes on and on. And one of the things that I did when I set up the setting is that I sort of told myself, okay, if the laws of physics allow me to do this, then I can do this in this setting. Because someone somewhere at some point would have asked these super AIs to make this for them. And part of what was feeding that in sort of the deep lore of the setting is that there was robust star lifting going on. And I was kind of reading and listening to various things about that, about orbital rings and various kind of, kind of future conceptualization about, what we could do as a species within our own solar system. And I sort of came up with the conclusion that interstellar flight is for chumps. That you have so much, so many resources like right here, within our own solar system in terms of mass and energy, particularly in the sun itself. It's like, okay, well, what really is the benefit of going to another star? If all you can do is just like, say, take all that, the mass and energy, wielded in a constructive manner, terraform and reconstruct, whatever hunk of rock you want into whatever you want it to be, and you can do that all here. And if you think about like the classical depiction of us branching out into like a multi-star civilization, it's like, okay, you're on Earth. And you get out of our gravity well. You've paid the gravity debt. Okay, now you're free. All right, you can move around much more freely. You go all this way. You go light years. And what's the first thing you do? You go right back into a gravity well. It's like, wait a second here.
So do we? I don't recall this from the book. Do we know what happened to Earth? Or is that a future?
That is a card that I have face down right now. It's there are some things missing in the solar system, and some of the characters. There are theories about what happened, and in some cases, there may be some truth to some of these theories, and in some cases, I may be just deliberately misleading everyone. but yeah, I mean, I have in my notes precisely how the societies ended up the way that they are, and how those formative events played out. It's one of those things where sometimes it's more fun for the readers to wonder, to have sort of like that playground in mind that it's like, okay, well, what did happen? It's like, oh, I got a new clue. Okay, well, how does this fit into, so
it's going to be a slow burn.
Yeah. Yeah, that aspect is, it's meant to be part of sort of like the deep mystery of the setting. And it's really, in terms of readers' enjoyment of the setting, I don't think it's like a hugely important part, because
no, it's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
It's more important that all these crazy things do exist rather than how they exactly ended up there.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it because what's more fun than what if? It's like, and on that, why Neptune?
Okay, so so there are a few things going on here. One is the quote unquote surface gravity of the various gas giants. And of course, when we're talking about surface gravity of a gas giant, it's like, okay, well, where are we in the atmosphere? And generally, you're talking about where the atmosphere is equivalent to 1 atmosphere of pressure. All right. So if you're looking at Jupiter, the gravity is pretty darn harsh. 2 point something. I would have to look it up, but it's not fun. Whereas Saturn and Neptune, it's much more comfortable. I believe both of them are a little bit higher than 1G, but still, if you or I were suddenly transported to some sort of megastructure, and there's breathable atmosphere, is all those other things were taken care of. The only thing that was different was the gravity. We would be able to move around just fine. There might be a little bit of a learning curve if we adjusted to being suddenly like 10% heavier or whatnot, but we would be able to deal. And the other thing is that I just didn't want to have to use the so there is I'm saving what happened to Uranus as a gag because that planet isn't there anymore. All right, and there's the gag goes basically going to be that there is some debate on what the translation of the ancient name actually means. And there may come a point where Nathan, our main character, says, it's like ordering Destiny to fly to an impolite place.
Yes.
Let's just say.
Yeah. So I enjoy the fact that that you're having fun writing this. It's obvious that you're having fun writing this.
I am.
So yeah, and it's fun, and it shows because it's fun reading it. Because there are shenanigans, and mostly amongst the main crew that we're following. Speaking of, let's talk about them, because you've mentioned it's a good say sampling of what's going on in this world. It's not just all human or all cat people or all this. It's a good mix of people, and so let's kind of dive into that.
All right, so we've got Captain Nathaniel Cade. He's our main character, and he is, all these characters, they have good hearts, even if they've got their rough edges, of which most of them have rough edges. Let's face it, but that's part of the fun. But deep down, they're good people, and that was sort of important to me. I didn't want to have any jerks on the crew, even if there's a little bit of needling going on here and there. So Nathan, he's got his ship, the Neptune Belle, and he's just sort of trying to make ends meet. He's transporting cargo back and forth in the solar system. He's doing odd jobs here and there, and he's just trying to keep his ship from falling apart, basically. And he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's got a little bit of snark going on. The scene that I think kind of embodies his character the most is one that actually happens very soon after the scene that became the cover art. So he and Vesiny, our ex-space pirate, have to deal with some space pirates that are on the Neptune Belle, that are there because, well, Vesiny is sort of a magnet for trouble. Let's just get that out of the way. And so they have to deal with them. And so they've then dealt with them, and then they're in the aftermath of that. And it's like, okay, there's all this intense stuff that's just happened, and Vesiny is just sort of like, still just sort of like calming down and processing from all that. And so she and Nathan are talking, and Nathan's like, hey, could you just like step a few feet that way? She's like, okay, sure. So she steps off the ramp of the ship. Its cargo hold is open. And so he just then hits the button and starts raising the ramp. And he's like, well, wait a second. What about all this? What about, all the trouble that could be coming my way? And he's like, well, we don't want it.
Yeah. It's his resident slamming the door.
It's like, can I at least have my stuff back? And he just ignores her and closes it all the way.
Yeah.
But so you have him, you have his co-pilot. So Nathan is baseline human. And you have then Aiko, who is his co-pilot or co-pilots, because she is Jovian and she has multiple bodies, of which there are fewer and fewer as the book progresses, because and actually she has her death scenes in the book plural, and to a certain degree, because of the nature that she has multiple bodies, I can sort of play those moments up as frame them in a somewhat comedic light. It's like, okay, yeah, we're losing a crew member, but after she's gotten shot and she's just like laying on the ground, she's thinking to herself, "Damn it, not again."
Yeah, no, I enjoy that. I mean, they get a little bit more serious the fewer.
As the numbers get whittled down, it's like, okay, I'm like, I'm down to my last body here, and this is now getting like really serious. I need to be careful.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the kind of the because it's a foreign concept to me. It's like, because once you're dead, you're dead. And for you to be, it's like, oh, that's fine, I died. It's no big deal. It was such a foreign, and I thought you did a good job with that, where it was like you say, it was entertaining, it was funny, but at the same time, it's like, whoa, man, that's heavy. They died. You know? And the concept of being able to download yourself and all that stuff was pretty cool.
And I think one of the other moments is that they're up against these cyborg marauders, and they're on, as part of their attempt to find this treasure trove, they're on Vesini's home habitat. So they're interacting with the local populace, and the local populace has problems, and it's like, hey, you guys have a ship? You guys have guns? Can you help us? It's like, well, gun singular, but okay. And so they're under attack, and because our heroes are heroes, they're helping out the locals. And there's a moment where one of these marauders throws like a spear with a vibroblade at the end, and it just punches right through one of the Aikos. So she just like looks. She like turns to this cat guy next to her, who has really no concept of who or what she is. He just sees that she's got this spear through her chest. She's just like, be honest with me, how bad is it? And then she just takes it out and chucks it right back at the marauders. And so that's sort of Aiko in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a fun character. And the main character, the captain, kind of gives off Captain Kirk / Mal from Firefly vibes,
a little bit.
Yeah, especially with the ladies, because he has some misadventures, which I will not divulge now. But I found that quite funny, where he's a little gun shy.
Well, there's a lot of variety amongst the ladies in this setting. And some of them, he's just like, yeah, I'll try that. And some of them, he's like, nah, not happening.
No,
I don't even know how that would mechanically work, and I'm not going to learn.
It's like, yeah, I had a bad time once, and I'm a little gun shy. Thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. All right, so the other crew members.
All right, so we've got two others, and so we have Joshua Cotton. So he is, to put this in author terms, he's the walking exposition dump. He's the guy who can explain technically what is happening and why it is happening, and he's the one who's also can help solve technical problems. So he has sort of like an engineering background. He's that sort of character. He's baseline human. And he and Vesiny are the two that have kind of figured out that, hey, we've got this lead on this treasure trove. We need to hire a crew. And Vesiny's like, well, I know a crew. They might not like me, but they're better than the space pirates that I just tried to steal a ship from and got all mad at me. Have I mentioned that Vesiny is a magnet for trouble? I believe I've mentioned that already.
Yeah, she can be a bit annoying to people.
So that's kind of Joshua's role in the party. And then we have Rufus. And Rufus is, to a certain degree, like a D&D cleric. In fact, they refer to him as a cleric, in that he has cybernetic implants, neural implants. And these implants, if you look at like the ancients of the society, these implants were very, very common. And they were used to communicate with the technology around them and the AIs. And so he is able to use those implants to basically any technology that he is around to ask it to do something or to ask it for information. Whether or not it will respond at all or respond in the way that he wants, well, sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. Sometimes, you get what you want, and, the technology will, like say, like open a passage for them, or, shut down so they can safely move into an area or whatnot, and any number of things. And sometimes you might accidentally activate the defensive systems of a habitat and it starts shooting down spaceships.
It's kind of like R2-D2 attached to a monk, He's just because he's part of a religious sect, right?
Well, it's sort of so yeah. So he is part of an order that is sort of an offshoot of one of the major religions. And so this offshoot, while it does have religious roots, it has sort of morphed over the centuries into sort of a more quasi-religious entity, in that they accept all comers that are subscribe to their mission to essentially figure out how stuff in this setting works, to rediscover lost knowledge. And so that's, kind of his calling. And he's, he is reluctant to get roped in to this, because the last time that he and Nathan were on a job together, both of them almost died. But Nathan knows what buttons to press when it comes to Rufus. It's just sort of like, it's not exactly this, but he just sort of like whispers softly in his ear, "Pentatech," and Rufus is like, "Huh?"
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so that's what ropes him in. And so you have, between Joshua and Rufus, sort of two different approaches to the weirdness that they encounter within the setting. You have one of them approaching it from a very scientific standpoint, and the other one approaching it from an almost mystic standpoint. But both of them prove to be very instrumental in pulling their collective feet out of the fire on multiple occasions.
No, I enjoy it. Now, is it just like this order or this quasi religion that does the implants, or is it kind of throughout?
No, it's pretty common across Saturn. And the Jovians, their synthetic bodies, they basically have that as a matter of course. They have a form of that. It's not like super common, but it's common enough that it's not like super remarkable that he has them either.
You just got to know a guy.
Yeah. And actually, like in terms of the like the surgical procedure, essentially what happens is that like one of these factories, it produces a kit. You put the kit on the place, like like it might be like a dome that you put over someone's head. You hit the button, the thing does the thing. You take it off, and they've got the implant. So in terms of like their medical understanding of how to get these implants in, it's a little fuzzy. That part's a little fuzzy to them too.
Oh wow. So one thing I've enjoyed about reading your work is you science the hell out of it. As you know, it's science fiction, so you should. But you keep it fun. It's not, because I've read some science fiction. It was like, I didn't know I was taking a class. Yeah. This is fun. This is fun.
Yeah. So my attitude about that generally, obviously there's some deviation depending on like what I'm writing and what I'm trying to communicate to the reader. But generally, particularly for freelancers, is that, okay, yes, this is hard science fiction, but I'm the one doing the hard work. You, the reader, you don't have to worry about that. You can just, enjoy all the fun weirdness that I've wound up for you here. But yeah, so if we're talking about like the different habitats and whatnot, yeah, I mean, I've got design sheets that, have all that, laid out. So that, in the words of Indiana Jones's father, I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember. So I have that somewhere if I need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to make sure that the hard science doesn't get in the way of the story and doesn't slow down the story. It's sort of there and it informs me on how to construct the setting, but the hard science isn't the setting itself, isn't the story itself. It isn't the focus. It's just part of the underlying DNA that goes into it. And to a certain degree, doing this all with strictly sticking, Jacob words, to hard science actually makes some elements easier. Because if you're talking about sort of like futuristic speculation, utilizing hard science and how far we can take physics in terms of megastructure construction, things like that, a lot of really smart people have already thought about all this. So there's a wealth of resources that already exists about, okay, if we as a species had access to this quantity of raw material and energy, what could we do with it? And so yeah, I just sort of like, oh yeah, orbital rings. Oh, I love orbital rings. They're like my go-to cheat when it comes to a megastructure. It's like, oh yeah, orbital ring, good.
Yeah. Well, and Jacob comes by it honestly, because you have a background in engineering and
yes.
and all that. So speaking of, so we're kind of joking before we started recording, is like this is one of the first times I get to interview Jacob by himself, because I've always been interviewing him with David Weber. And so now, now he gets to talk. And now Jacob and I met, I think officially for the first, this is my recollection. So if it was when we did the panel, the care and feeding of authors panel at Fantasy.
I believe so. Yes. Yeah. I believe that's where we met.
Yeah, that was the first time we, officially met, and that's a fun panel because, well, now Jacob is also an author. I am not, but we are married to authors, and basically, it's a fun panel because we go and they allow you to drink, and it always eventually, at least for me, you end up talking shit about your author spouse and the ridiculousness that you have to do in order to keep them alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first time we met. But so since this is the first time I get to interview you by yourself, how did you get into, because you have a background in engineering, but how does that translate or get you into writing, or is that just a completely different path?
I mean, there's some, cross-pollination going on, but for the most part, the two career paths sort of they sort of just both came about organically from what I wanted to do and what I was interested in growing up through, particularly through high school and then through college. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to go into engineering. I didn't really know enough about the field to know like what kind of engineering, but ended up in electrical because I think I sat down with a professor who was talking about like the different fields and said that, oh yeah, and electrical, you need to take extra math. And like, aha, yes, I enjoy math. Let's go with that one.
I'm glad there's people like you, because I was not that guy.
Oh, I have been known to make spreadsheets for fun. I am not exactly.
Well, now I enjoy a good spreadsheet. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, but it's the math part. That's why I like spreadsheets. It does the math for me.
But sort of parallel to that, I was writing really bad science fiction. And it sort of started with bad Star Wars fanfic. And I just kept writing, and I kept getting producing less bad material step by step, to the point where eventually David Weber read some of my stuff. My wife, Heather H.P. Hollow, is her author name. One of her author names. Because there's also the E.D. Sky author name, which is, so it's HP is non-spicy and E.D. is spicy. So anyway, we had self-published some material, and David had read, I think, at least 2 of my books. And he made a suggestion that we should write a novel together, which ended up becoming The Gordian Protocol. And so that is when writing switched from being a quote-unquote hobby to, I am contractually obligated to produce. This is now a job.
You got to put work in. So how many published works did you have before you started working with David?
I want to say 6. Okay. So I think 5 solos and 1 collaboration with my wife.
Awesome.
And I think at that point in time, that's what we had put out there. And then started working on the Gordian Protocol, and then just, well, now it's 6th book came out this year. So
I know you've got quite a catalog now.
Yes.
So you were kind of poo-pooing on your writing before, but it couldn't have been that bad if it got the attention of David Weber and Bain. So.
Well, sometimes we are our own worst critics, and I don't really view this as a negative, that I am very critical of my own work. I think it helps, keep me honest as an author, and helps me focus and continue to produce what I hope readers will find are high quality, enjoyable stories.
Well, so far, so good.
Well,
moving forward, I'm hoping this is not a standalone novel.
No, in fact, I've actually, let's see here. We've actually had a number of freelancer short stories.
Mm-hmm.
So two of them, we've had two in anthologies, and Jason Cordova has already asked for another one from me for, so yeah. And there's also plenty of more stories to be told in this setting. Okay, so this is a little bit strange to me, but the one character that a lot of readers, in terms of feedback that I've received from people who have read the book, is the character of Beanie. That they have like wanted to know more about Beanie, and to and that actually one of the scenes. So Beanie is a sentient coffee plant. Okay, this Beanie has no dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Beanie communicates by like moving branches. Okay. And I'm getting feedback from readers like, we want more Beanie. It's like, and I literally had one person say that she teared up during one of Beanie's scenes. And I'm like, okay, well,
was that unexpected for you?
Well, to me, as I was putting it in, it was just sort of like this weird, kind of, it hinted at the adventures that Nathan and Aiko had prior to the events of the novel. That, hey, they've been around, they've seen some weird things, they've had some near misses, and in one of them they somehow got a dragon to give them a sentient coffee plant. And so yeah, there's probably going to be some more Beanie.
So those other adventures that you're talking about, are those in the short stories, or are we going to see some flashbacks in the future? Or
so right now they're two short stories and two anthologies, and a third one that's in the works. In fact, Jason just sent out the material saying, "Hey, guys, want to write another short story for me? I got an contract for an anthology." It's like, okay, all right. But right now, so yes, I want to write more freelancer stories. Right now, my issue is getting to it in the queue. Okay. So I just signed a contract along with David Weber and Thomas Pope to write a trilogy of Omniverse novels featuring the character of Edward Saganami, who is sort of like the father of the Royal Manticoran Navy. That's going to keep me busy for a while.
I can see that.
And there's also, okay, I've already finished this, but I still need to edit it. Well, finish the first draft, but a novella for an upcoming Omniverse anthology. So David has roped me into more collaborations with him. Not that I required much convincing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, first of all, David's great to work with. And being invited to basically participate in what I view as the crown jewel of his writing career is the Omniverse. This massive, beautiful creation of his. Yeah, that takes priority over my solo stuff.
But so with that though, hopes and dreams all the time in the world.
Yes.
What would you like to see for this series? Like, as far as like, you know, would you have a plan for like how many books you would write or anything like that?
Well, the way that I've structured it is that the novels would be more or less episodic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, the casting, the cast, the crew.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
the crew of the well, it starts as the Neptune Belle, but the crew of the ship having adventures, you know, and mishaps throughout this rather weird and wonderful version of our solar system. And yes, I've got a list in my design document of various kinds of misadventures they have, and I do have a fair amount of detail for what would be book 2 already laid out. And the new crew member that joins the cast crew, new crew member, new person. I can't. Sentences aren't working right now. You know what I mean.
Yeah, we're getting to the top of the hour.
But yes, there are more stories that I would like to tell in this setting, and I think and I do want to get to those stories someday. It's just I like look at my plate. It's like, okay, well, a trilogy of Omniverse novels is going to keep me busy for a few years. So that's like, you know,
might be a minute. Yeah.
In terms of my project planning, that's sort of like where my horizon is right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I hope you get to write some more of these. It was a good read. It was fun. Of course, your other stuff is good too. And you know, congratulations on all your success. I'm happy to see you getting popular there. So congratulations on that. And but before we go, tell people where they can find you, either online or out in the wild.
All right, so my wife and I, we have a website, hollowwriting.com. You can find this there. My wife is the social media guru of the two of us. My interactions with Facebook tend to be looking over her shoulder when she has something funny show up in her feed. Mm-hmm. So she handles that side of the our online presence, mm-hmm. And but yeah, we will be at MarsCon. Mm-hmm. I believe that's in January. I think that's the next convention that we're going to be at, which is so MarsCon in Norfolk, Virginia. And then after that, I am not sure. I know that unfortunately we are not going to be able to be at LibertyCon this year.
Oh no.
So we are going to be missing that one. So I think our con schedule next year is going to be a little bit lighter than normal, unfortunately, because of that and a few other circumstances.
Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy too.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be busy. We are absolutely going to be busy. We're just going to be at fewer cons, I think.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. And I say this all the time, people listening, if you like authors or you want to support your authors, of course, buy their books. But go to their website, sign up for their newsletters, rate, like, review everything they do on all the things, including, you know, Amazon or wherever you find their books. It's really, really helpful for the authors. And of course, go to Baen.com for all your literary needs. And with that, I say thank you, Jacob, for coming in today and telling us about this wonderful book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you to the audience for watching, and we will catch you all next time.
Thank you for having me.
And now we bring you our audiobook serialization of Tinker by Win Spencer. Inventor girl genius Tinker lives in a near-future Pittsburgh, which now exists mostly in the land of the elves. She runs her salvage business, pays her taxes, and tries to keep the local ambient level of magic down with gadgets of her own design. When a pack of wargs chase an elven noble into her scrapyard, life as she knows it takes a serious detour. Tinker finds herself taking on the Elven Court, the NSA, the Elven Interdimensional Agency, technology smugglers, and a college-minded xenobiologist as she tries to stay focused on what's really important, her first date. Armed with an intelligence the size of a planet, steel-toed boots, and a junkyard dog attitude, Tinker is ready to kick butt to get her first kiss.
Pony was doing exercises when Tinker woke the next morning. Stripped to the waist, he worked through a series of lightning-fast moves that would end suddenly in a perfect pose. Movement, stillness, an attack, a block, a kick, a parry. Fluid, precise, soundless. Muscles upon muscles shifting under sleek skin. He was beautiful to watch. She felt the ache of desire flare up again. She moaned, rolling over to bury her head under pillows. Could this get any more embarrassing? She realized then that she needed to pee. She sat up and discovered that in that position, the need was greater. "Good morning." Pony pressed his fist against his palm and bowed. "Morning." She eyed the chamber pot in the corner. There was a real toilet off the workshop. Could she reach that? No, she felt like she was about to burst. "Could you, turn around?" She tried to pee quietly, but failed due to the acoustic properties of ceramic and the amplifying curvature of the bowl. Horses pissed quieter. Was it possible to die of humiliation? Mark up another difference between Pony and Windwolf. She hadn't been self-conscious the first time she used the toilet in front of Windwolf. She tried to act nonchalant, but she could feel the burn of embarrassment on her face as she washed her hands. "Do you train every morning like that?" she asked to distract both of them. "Yes, the Sakasha were made to be living weapons. We hone our bodies to perfection." "You embrace being a weapon?" "I take joy in my strength." He high-kicked and locked into place, balanced on one foot. "And I like to fight." He grinned, and suddenly he didn't seem like the mild Pony she knew, but someone wilder and fiercer, more aptly named Stormhorse. She tried to study him clinically, taking note only of his injuries. His bruises looked days old, mottled purple and faded yellow. "How do you feel?" "Whole, except for my hand." He held it out for her inspection. The middle and ring fingers were still swollen and stiff. He flexed them carefully, wincing. "It will be another day or two before I'll be able to hold a sword. Perhaps as much as 4 before I can strike with this hand without fear of causing more pain to myself than my opponent." "Good. We have to get out of here." "Out?" "We need to escape." Pony looked at her with utter surprise. "But you gave your word." Tinker winced. She had suspected that this was how the conversation would go, but she hated to have her fears confirmed. "Pony, these are bad, nasty people with not a fleck of honor among them." "In giving your word, it is only your honor that matters, not the receiver. If you think the person is not worth your honor, you don't extend it." She checked the impulse to stick her tongue out at him. "Would you rather I break my word or let these monsters take over our world?" "I would rather die than be the reason you broke your word." "Elves. This is not about you. This is about them doing whatever they could to break me." "That's because you are the pivot." Yeah, so everyone keeps reminding me." But actually, she had kind of forgotten all that between Sparrow's betrayal, Chio's breeding, and Pony's capture. Tinker thought she understood the mess until Sparrow waltzed in and clued the Oni. How did their knowledge and her promise change things? The seer had said that it was only a matter of time before the Oni opened a gate. Certainly, if Tinker refused to cooperate, they could bide their time. They were immortal, and humans made advances in technology daily. That equation had a zero sum, which was why she was cooperating until she could escape. But the seer also indicated that they could only defeat the Oni by choosing when the gate was opened, and indicated that the pivot picked the time. If she was in the Oni's control, did it mean that the Oni controlled the choice? She decided to bounce her questions off of Pony, who probably had more experience in these seer type of things. Sparrow told the Oni that the only way to bind me was with ties of my own making. Sparrow? Oops. She forgot Pony didn't know that little piece of nastiness. She's working with them. They had me fooled into thinking I was on Onihida, but I figured it out and got away last night. Sparrow recaptured me and brought me back to them. Pony darkened with anger, and he stalked about the room as if looking for something to vent his rage on. He growled out Elvish she didn't recognize. But they sounded like obscenities. Pony, I'm trying to figure out what the seer meant. Forgiveness. He fell silent, but he continued to stalk about the room. Do you know if the seer said anything more about me being the pivot? She did not, although closely pressed by all. Bind the pivot, was all she said. If the pivot be true, then the battle can be won. If the pivot proves false, all will be lost. Tinker tried to wrap her mind around it, but Sparrow's translation was making it difficult. Sparrow told the Oni that they'll only be able to hold me with promises freely given. Has the Oni won merely by making me promise? Is it just the words, or— Sparrow often hears what she wants to hear, Pony interrupted her. The seer isn't saying that getting you to make promises will win the battle. The seer said, if the pivot be true, which means you must keep all your promises, no matter to whom. Oh, you must be kidding. No. I can't make them a gate. You must. You promised. That doesn't follow logic, Tinker protested. Seeing into the future is like having a gleaming thread appear in the darkness. You must walk that path, no matter how treacherous, to reach the foreseen outcome. If you step off it, you're lost from sight, and both you and your goal become unknown again. So, although it flies into the face of everything sensible, the only way to stop the Oni is to do what they want. What they forced you to promise. She shook her head. No, it didn't make any more sense out loud or stood on its head. What if being true is just loyal? I can't be loyal to the elves if I'm making a gate for the Oni. No, you're confusing words. Those don't mean the same thing. She winced. They're synonyms, right? Close to the same meaning. True only means that one keeps their word of honor. It is a word applied to head of households and clan leaders as they interact with equals or enemies. If she got out of this, she had to smack Tulu a good one. Obviously, when the half-elf taught her Elvish, any approximate English word would work. To hell with confusion that other meanings of the English word might cause. Domi, you swore not only on your honor, but on the honor of your house. For an elf, there is no stronger oath. Yeah, that was why she used it. She wanted to scream. What an irrational mess. I'm not really an elf. I'm a human with funny ears. I didn't know what Windwolf intended with the spell. I'm not even sure why Windwolf made me this way. If you love someone, don't you take them as they are? Domi, I am young for an elf, but I am over 100. I grew up in a large city in the eastern lands. Many elves live there, but in 100 years, one meets most of them. And in all that time, I have never met anyone like you. Not a single person, having met you, has questioned Windwolf's desire to prolong your life. You blaze like a star. You don't seem to see that, but then you surround yourself with people nearly as bright as yourself. You raise people up to your heights. Even if Windwolf did not love you, he would not want to see your brilliance put out. She burned in embarrassment. Me? Blaze? From your wit to your confidence to your compassion, you are an amazing person. Windwolf barely knew me when he proposed. After living so many years, if you're wise, you learn your own heart. You know when you meet someone that this person I can be friends with, or this person I can build a friendship with. It will be difficult work, but it may be very sound. Or this person I will never be friends with. There are times, though, where it seems like magic. You look at a person and your soul opens up and recognizes a true love. Windwolf looked at you and believed you are one he could live forever with. And in some ways, I am the same. She looked at him. What? He dropped to one knee and took her hand. Domi, do you think I would pledge my life to you, be willing to die for you, if I did not in some way love you? You love me? She repeated, stunned. You are my Domi, and in all ways you have proved the worth of my decision. You have protected me, as I have protected you. A holding is like a marriage, where trust runs deep, and in only a few days, I knew that to be beholden to you would be a good thing. That threw her into a whirlwind of emotions, but the door opened behind Pony, saving her from discovering what dangerous thing might arise from that chaos. A gale force of alarm blasted through her, scouring away everything else. There was an entire squad of Oni warriors with Riki to escort her and Pony back to the workshop. Ironwood timbers sat stacked just inside the side door, which was padlocked shut again. A crew of humans sat waiting. They were Asians in blue jeans, t-shirts, and work boots. Tinker checked in confusion. Who are they? They're the carpenters to make the frame out of the ironwood, Riki explained. I thought since you designed the framework yesterday that you'd want to get started on building it. We've got a tight deadline. Wait, isn't this like your ultra-secret hideout? What the fuck are they doing here? Did you kidnap them all? Are you going to kill them when they're done? Riki blinked and glanced back at the carpenters. Oh no, they're not humans. They're Oni, permanently disguised as humans. Sort of like how the Yap dogs were those big monster things. We had to immigrate them into Pittsburgh under Chinese visas. Tinker thought of the sprawling Chinatown on the north side. Aw, shit. Don't tell me all the Chinese are Oni. Okay. Riki walked away.
That was another installment in Win Spencer's Tinker, and that's it for the podcast. Thanks as always to Audible.com and podcast theme composer Ruth Judkowitz, and good night Tony Daniel wherever you are. This is David F. Shirod coming to you from a soundproof bunker somewhere deep in the heart of Texas. Join us here next week in the hammering heart of science fiction and fantasy, and keep reaching for the stars.